Chapter 12 of Billie Bradley at Treasure Cove by Janet D. Wheeler. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. A plot revealed. From the beginning of the game, Billie Bradley knew that something was wrong. Her stroke had not its old power. She was not sure of herself. It was generally so easy to place the ball anywhere in enemy territory. A lightning-like survey of the court, a masterly coordination of eye and hand, and plop, went the ball, either over the enemy's head or so maddeningly close to the outline in the back court that her adversary was forced to run frantically for it and try an all but impossible backhand swing at the ball. Many a match Billie had won on the speed and accuracy of her returns. But today all this appeared to be changed. She succeeded in intercepting the majority of Alice Jane's powerful serves and Amanda's tricky shots, but somehow the ball did not behave as usual. It could not, Billie realized, with a sensation of dismay, be depended upon. Twice it fell within easy reach of Alice's long arm, and because Billie had not expected such an easy return, Alice's short, powerful drive caught her unprepared. From the sidelines, Vi and Laura, Rose and Connie, looked on with fists clenched and in their eyes wonder. "Look," cried Laura, as Billie lobbed a high ball into the net. "Another error! That makes 30 all. Girls, what can be the matter with Billie?" That same despairing question Billie was asking of herself. "What has become of my control?" she thought wildly. "One more error means game, set, and match." Despite the valiant fight of both Hazel Brown and Billie, the error was made. The fact that the final and fatal error was Hazel's made no difference to Billie. She knew in her heart that it was the incomprehensible wildness of her returns that had stolen the match from them. In characteristic fashion, she put the blame squarely where it belonged. "I'm sorry, Hazel," she said, as she and her partner in defeat crossed the court to shake hands with the victors. "My control got away from me pretty badly." "It's all right," said Hazel gamely. "The match was close, and we almost won, anyway. It's a defeat we needn't be ashamed of." Billie gave the girl a grateful glance. "That's pretty sporting of you, Hazel," she said. But there was nothing sporting about Amanda. When Billie, looking the unpleasant girl steadily in the eye, held out her hand, Amanda slipped her own into it, but her eyes were filled with a mean triumph as they stared into Billie's. "I beat you this time, Billie Bradley," she said in a low tone, "and I will again. You watch." Billie turned away in disgust. She was miserable, humiliated. "Well, I've given Amanda a chance to crow," she thought bitterly. "She beat me in a fair fight. It's her turn." But as she left the court, she found herself surrounded by an excited group composed of her own friends and admirers. "Billie," cried Vi, "it isn't your fault. You were defeated. Amanda tricked you." "Tricked me?" returned Billie wonderingly. But before she could ask any questions, she was hustled from the scene by Laura, Vi, and the others. They fairly ran her toward the hall, and there was a look on their faces that made Billie's heart beat quickly. "Where are you taking me?" she cried. "Wait and see," returned Laura. "Ah, here we are." They turned a corner of the building and came face to face with Ben Halcombe. The old sailor could now hobble about with the aid of a cane. There he stood, leaning on his cane, and with such a look of mystery on his leathery old face that Billie stretched out imploring hands toward him. "Have you anything to do with this mystery?" she cried. "The girls say that Amanda Peabody tricked me. How did they know?" Ben Halcombe had a distinct sense of the dramatic. He did not answer Billie's query in words. Instead, he slowly withdrew his hand from behind his back and held an object toward her. "A racket," said Billie slowly. Then something clicked in her brain. A surge of red came to her face. The racket with which she had lost the match was still in her hand. She raised it and examined it intently for a moment. Then, still without speaking, she reached out her hand to the racket Ben Halcombe held. The old man handed it to her, his eyes crinkling quizzically at the corners. Billie studied the other racket, shifted it in her hand, weighed it, went through the motions of a service stroke. When she spoke, it was in a quiet tone, an ominously quiet tone from Billie Bradley. "This is my racket," she said, looking about the circle of intent friends. "The other, the one I played with, is the same make, so I never noticed the difference. But my play noticed the difference." Her voice trembled as a sudden white rage at Amanda Peabody surged through her. "This is what you meant, then," she cried, facing the girls. "This was what you meant when you said Amanda had tricked me." "She must have exchanged rackets sometime when you weren't noticing, Billie," nodded Laura. Billie was thoughtful for a moment. Then she whirled upon Ben Halcombe. "How did you find out about this?" she asked. "I was down near the boathouse," the old man explained. "I like the water, you know, and now I'm getting well, I'm plumb homesick for it again. Well, as I was laying there, half hid by those bushes you have planted along the path, I heard voices. They were girls' voices, and I heard one of them say, 'I've hid Billie Bradley's racket. I've heard the girls say Billie can't play so well without that racket. Take it away from her, and she'd be something like Samson with his hair cut off. She wouldn't have any strength or skill left.' Well, I've hid her racket," repeated the girl, with a sort of giggle. "That ought to fix the match." "The wretch!" cried Laura. "Quite so," said the old man, glancing at her. "Well, I didn't pay much attention to that conversation, thinking it was just sort of a prank like schoolgirls like to play on each other. But after a while I got to thinking, and I remembered, with an apologetic look at the intent Billie, then that I'd heard someone say that this was the day of the big tennis match. So I thought to myself, seems like this little joke may turn into a pretty serious piece of mischief after all. So we finished simply. I went into the boathouse, and I searched around till I found a tennis racket hidden behind some oars and paddles. Then I said to myself, maybe this belongs to Billie Bradley. She may or she may not be glad to get it, but I'm going to give it to her just the same." "You can imagine how we felt," Laura burst out, "when Mr. Halcombe, called us aside and told us what he'd heard. We knew Amanda would play a trick on you if she could," added Vi. "And she did," said Billie, very quietly, fingering her racket. "I think you've rather turned the tables on her, just the same, Ben Halcombe. Just you come to the singles match this afternoon, and keep your eyes open." Vi and Laura, Rose and Connie were all for going to Miss Walters' office, there to lay before the head of the school the story of Amanda's treachery. But Billie Bradley shook her head. "Miss Walters might stop the singles match this afternoon," she said, "and that's the last thing in the world I want." Billie Bradley played against Amanda Peabody that afternoon as she had seldom played before. Her service had its old power. Her control was faultless. She played with her rival the way a cat plays with a mouse. Her brilliant, unexpected shots caught Amanda frequently off guard. The latter scurried desperately from one end of the court to the other, lobbing off balls that landed, if not in the net, easily within Billie's reach. It was a shame, the girls agreed later, to treat Amanda so, but they laughed when they said it. The result was that Billie won one of the most decisive victories of her short court career. The scores read 6-4, 6-3, 6-0. For in the last set, Amanda became completely demoralized. She was the sort of player who only plays at top form when winning. The first set was hard fought, and the second fairly so. The last was a rout. As Billie brought her 40 love to game, this winning the set and match, a spontaneous roar of applause broke from the onlookers. "Good for Billie." "What's the matter with Billie?" "She's all right." "You've got your revenge, Billie, and it's a good one." These and other shouts rose above the steady applause of Billie's admirers. On dragging feet, Amanda went sullenly to the net and reached a hand to Billie. The latter ignored the outstretched hand. "Samson has grown his hair again," she said, searing Amanda with her contemptuous glance. "I know all about the boathouse and the trick you played on me, Amanda, and I won't shake hands with you. You are a disgrace to the name of sport." End of chapter 12.